Zach Detmore here with another boring video about organization. And today we're talking about something interesting, a checklist to make sure you don't forget anything before you start painting. Now, what's a checklist? A checklist takes all the easy, obvious tasks out of our brain so we can focus on the more critical things. So some people think checklists are below them because they say, I'm a smart person. I don't need to be told to put a drop cloth on the floor. It's not so much that you're an idiot because you need a checklist. It's let's allow your brain to function with the hard tasks. And we'll be over here reminding you that it's a good idea to put a drop cloth down. Make sense? Make smart people smarter. Hooray! Let's take a look at this checklist. Boom! Bam! All right, you can download this at detmore.com/resources, just like all my bibs and bobs I share on this YouTube channel. All right, so let's start with it. What do you do first? You scuff sand freshly primed walls. So all you're doing is trying to knock down anything that's stuck to the wall. You're not trying to knock down texture from the roller, just any like little bits of debris that were floating in the air that's stuck to the wall. Knock it down with a sanding pole. If you are refinishing a wall that was already been primed and painted dozens of times, then it's a good idea to take out the drywall sander, an electric one if you have one, or a random orbital one. My checklist says Planex because that's a tool I own, but you could get a drywall sander from, I believe there's at least 6 companies that make them now. And the reason you want to do that is basically if you have new drywall and old drywall, and one's got 10 layers of paint and one's got none, you want to make that old finish as smooth as possible so it doesn't look like you have two drastically different textures on the wall. Check with wall lights to make sure that no spackle touch-ups are needed. So basically, take your light, instead of pointing it straight at the wall, bring it over so it's pointing across the wall surface and ceiling surface, and make sure there's nothing that jumps out at you because it's so easy to touch those things up before you break out the gallon of paint. You don't have to deal with flashing and all of those issues. Inspect areas very closely with angular light that are under harsh sunlight conditions, like out surrounding a skylight, inside a bay window, etc. Caulk all joints with big stretch. That's the interior caulk we use for our company, and let it dry for 24 hours minimum. Fill nail holes with Timbermate wood filler. That's the wood filler we typically use. Sand all nail holes flush. Sand all seams. So the seams and trim is referring to if you have a field butt joint, or some people do scarfs. We do butts. Make sure they're sanded flush before you move on to anything else. Some people don't prep those joints properly. So just make sure any sort of field joint is flush, 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 flush. Use primer on any stains or marks. So go around with a stain killer. If it's an old job, maybe a kid was in there at some point, got a Sharpie on the wall. Maybe a contractor was in there at some point, got some Sharpie on the wall. Cover it up. Remove any sawtooths or router marks from any wood. So, make sure there's no tooling marks. Sand to at least 220. Vacuum all dust from trim and electrical boxes, floors, and work areas. So get the dust out of there. Do a great job, not a good job. 99% of the texture that's in the paint job is often from mediocre vacuuming ahead of time. Like, people are like, why isn't my piece smooth? And it's usually because you didn't vacuum, you didn't wipe, you didn't clean the surface, so the paint is sitting on top of all this garbage. It's not because your paint is not as good as someone else's paint. If you don't believe me, pour the world's worst paint over a sheet of glass that you just wiped down with some Windex, and you're going to have a nice clean finish. All right, what else do we have? Wipe down trim and all surfaces with a damp cloth. Now, that damp cloth can't be water in all cases. You might need to use kerosene or something that's not going to raise the grain necessarily. So, use the right fluid for the application. There's no one right thing, but certainly don't go around like wet mopping your walls. Primer on any bare wood, obvious. Prime MDF with 2 or 3 coats and then sand to 220. Obviously, MDF grows a lot. You want to sand it a lot. Get all 6 sides of doors. Don't just paint all 4 sides and forget the top and bottom, because then they will move a lot more and they won't last as long. For jambs, prime bottoms before. Yeah, so I mean, just prime everything you can. Cover all horizontal surfaces if you're brushing and rolling, and basically cover every surface if you're spraying, and go 4 feet beyond where your spray zone is if you're spraying. So that's our punch list, things to do and check off before you start painting. Obviously, there's a ton of stuff we missed on that list that you need to do, but hopefully it checks a couple boxes. Maybe you read through this and you say, oh, I was going to skip that one. I'll go hit that one. So download this if you think it's useful. Please subscribe if you find this stuff useful, and I'll see you on the next organizational video coming up soon. Thanks for watching.